This is Ken Lather from Coffee Crafters, and today I want to do a roasting video on our new Artisan 3E roaster. We did a little promo video you might have already watched that explains some of the upgrades we did from the Artisan 2.5. But basically I'll go over those real quick. We redesigned the inside of the heat chamber on the 2.5 based on what we learned when we did the Artisan 9. And we boosted its efficiency. So we've gone from 15 pounds an hour to 18 pounds an hour production. We also redesigned the mast back here. This is probably the biggest change. And a lot better airflow with the 500 CFM even blower. And also it vacuums the hot air off the top of the heat chamber, so it's running cooler. So this is a great starter machine. It does as much production as a 5-pound drum roaster. For quite a bit less money, and it's roasting in clean hot air. I've already started the exhaust blower over here. You might hear that running in the background. So I thought I'd go ahead and roast a 3-pound batch on this roaster, and then we'll kind of talk through the different features and how everything is operating as we go through the roast. So I'm going to go ahead and load the roaster and we'll start our roast. As usual, one of the things you always want to do when you're roasting is start your exhaust blower to begin with. The nice thing about this one is when you're pouring your beans in, the beans will have a little bit of dust in them. The back of the mast here is open. So this is a really cool feature because you can actually roast with the hood up and it still exhausts through the back, but also when you're pouring the beans, all the dust from the beans go back in there too. So that works really good. So we'll go ahead and establish our loft here and get our roast going. And we're roasting coffee. So always want to make sure that you have the blast gate closed on the cooler, and that will help to get a little bit more suction through here. You can roast and cool at the same time on this machine, so you can go back to back. As soon as you dump the beans in the cooler, which we'll do in the end, you could load your next batch. This has the same amount of power as the Artisan 2.5. We use the same electronics, we use the same heat element, but by boosting the efficiency, we got a really, really efficient roaster. This is only 5,200 watts of electricity, and it'll roast 18 pounds an hour. And that will run up against any gas roaster for efficiency, pennies per pound. Even if you're in a state like New York where the power is really expensive, it'll still be, very low energy cost. So we've gained about 25% in the electrical efficiency, so we got a 25% reduction in the power cost. So it's just pennies per pound. When we redesigned the heat chamber, we were really surprised because we did it so that the machine would run cooler like the Artisan 9. So we redesigned the heat chamber and the insulation and shroud system, and redesign the mast. What we hadn't anticipated was the boost in production. So the first load I put in there, I had to keep turning down the heat. And we found out when we went back between the Artisan 6 and the Artisan 9, we looked at the percentage of increased production, and it was exactly linear between the 2.5 and the 3E and the 6 and the 9. So the nice thing about this, my absolute favorite part of this machine, is you can lift this up while you're roasting. And I don't know if you can see it from the camera angle, but all the chaff and the smoke goes up out of the screen and right back in the mast. So I've roasted complete roast cycles with the mast up just to see what happened, and it worked fine. It's really great because if the roaster wants to look inside of the hopper and see how his roast is coming along, it's really direct line of sight. Before we used to slide the hood aside and kind of peek in there, and now you can see the chaff coming off here, hopefully, and nothing is not losing anything. That also helped when we were dumping the beans, because with the old roaster, we would rotate the hood to the side which expose the hot beans, the roasted beans, to the environment, you know, for 3 or 4 seconds, getting from there to the cooler. But now, as you'll see when we end this roast, when I lift this hood up, I can go ahead and position myself even when I'm lifting the beans off of the mount tube on the bottom, the hopper from the mount tube. It's still exhausting. So there's only like a half a second of time between going from the hood back here to the downdrafting bean cooler. So there's quite a bit less smoke escapes in the room. Yeah, we're having a lot of chaff come off now, so hopefully you can see that in there. That chaff goes right back in there. We've increased the exhaust duct going down to our 4-inch round flex. We used to have a 2.5-inch ID J tube, aluminum J tube. So we've increased that actual suction a lot. Helps with the venting. One of the things that you'll notice if anybody has been around an Artisan 2.5, you notice that the rear left side of the roaster got hot on the 2.5. It didn't hurt the operation any, it didn't hurt the electronics because it's still air cooled. The electronics are air cooled. But it made a big difference in the back-to-back roasting. So if you're roasting for 4 or 5 hours before you have the machine cool off, we used to tell people to let the machine cool off for, you know, every half hour or hour, 3 or 4 loads, let it cool off for a few minutes. You really don't have to do that with this one because it's vacuuming that hot air in here, and it made it run a lot cooler. The heat chamber design itself, we made the heat chamber smaller, we raised the air pressure, and we changed the design. So instead of having the ceramic 1-inch ceramic board, which we had make the heat chamber around the other one, we've gone to a more traditional design like they have in an insulated chimney pipe. Have you ever seen those stainless steel insulated chimney pipes? They have 1 inch of ceramic blanket inside, stainless steel shroud on the outside, and we put the same design into here. The actual operation of the roaster is exactly the same. The Artisan 2.5, the Artisan 9. It's a manual machine, so, but we have infinite heat control. And one of the things, if you've read about other fluid bed roasters, people complain because they didn't have a heat adjustment. The heat was either on or off. On this one, you have the heat dial over here, range from 0 to 10, and you can tweak it, you know, just a little bit, turn it down. So if you want to maintain a certain ramp, you can, you know, turn it up until you get a nice even bean temperature rise. So we're at about 360 degrees now, so we're about 40 degrees away from first crack. This roaster, one of the design criteria for this was to fit in a certain size of box for our international shipping. So we have excellent international shipping rates on this because we can ship them FedEx, and they're under that size criteria. So even this roaster going to New Zealand, you know, we recently did a quote to New Zealand for like $230 shipping cost for the whole unit, which is great. So we're hoping it'll be able to travel some places without the shipping cost of a full-size pallet. I'll turn down the loft a little bit. It's the only thing you really have to do on the roaster once you establish your roast air temperature that you want, is those beans do get lighter as they roast, and the bean loft will get higher. So you just turn down that heat a little bit and get it down. Try to maintain another 3 to 5 inches. We're still running about the same as we did in the 9. 3 pounds of beans will fill this all the way up. Some of the Artisan 2.5s, we had a 4.5-inch chimney. On this one, we can run a 6 or a 6.5-inch wire chimney. And with the extra suction, it still does a good job of taking all of the chaff and the smoke up over the top. But you can feel the top of the roaster now. We're all the way up to our roast air temperature. We're running about 575 degrees inside. We'll get up to like 620, and it's still cool around the top. We're only taking about 20 CFM going into our exhaust blower. So as long as the exhaust blower is running, it's cooling the roaster body. So all the way around the front, down the sides, the roaster runs cooler than the old model. Most of the electronics are in the floor, so these cool the electronics exactly the same as they did in the Artisan 2.5. Takes air in through the side here. You can feel the loft air getting sucked through the side, goes down through the electronics and up into the loft motor, cools the machine. One of the fun parts of doing the roaster projects was getting the equipment to a cost point where somebody could actually start a business out of their home without having to make, you know, a $15,000 to $50,000 investment in a coffee roaster. So, might hear a first crack going on there. It just started about 4:05, which is really great. So you take the Artisan 3E. We had to raise the price a little bit. It was a little bit more expense in the mast and the heat chamber, but still it's $3,350. It does 3 times the hourly production of a Sano Fresco for much less cost. And it has a great heat control, one of the advantages. And plus we're roasting in clean hot air, so there's no natural gas exhaust like you'll find in a lot of drum roasters or some other fluid bed roasters who are roasting in the natural gas exhaust, which infuses the hydrogen sulfide into the coffee bean. So a lot of people, you know, are advertising that as one of the benefits of the roaster. We're roasting in clean hot air, so it's the cleanest, freshest product you can get out of a coffee bean without, you know, introducing it to that natural gas exhaust. One of the problems with the roaster manufacturing industry is that everybody would price their roasters based on the hourly capacity. So when we did market surveys up front, people said, well, what's your capacity? And we told them what there was on the Artisan 5, which is the original roaster, and they said, well, those machines are like $10,000 to $15,000. And we decided not to use that model. So we have a profit margin we build into the roaster, and then we cut out the middleman. So we don't sell through distributors. So we pass that savings right on to the customer. And it's really helped create a new industry and a new opportunity for people getting in the business. So you can buy an Artisan 3E at 18 pounds an hour. It's the same as a 2 to 3 kilo drum roaster for hourly production for about 1/3 the cost of a good quality drum roaster installed. They're very small. You see where we have this one, we have our bean cooler sitting there. You can put the entire system in like a 2-foot by 4-foot space. So you could put this in the corner of your garage, build some shelving. It makes a great business opportunity. All right, we're all the way up to 425 degrees, so we're gonna turn it down a little bit. We'll probably pull this roast at about 450 degrees. And again, it's in a state of now starting to produce a little bit of light smoke. Fluid bed roasters in general don't produce as much smoke because the coffee beans are in that state when you go beyond like 410 degrees where, you know, it starts generating some kind of smoke for a much less time than like a drum roaster. But it's great, we're roasting, we're venting smoke now. I got the hood up and there's no smoke outside. I'm looking at it from the side, which you can't probably see from the camera angle, but you can see all that little plume of smoke going right up in the back of the roaster. It's great now because the roasters a lot of times will want to really get a good look at their beans towards the end of the roast. Most of the chaff is gone now, and so I can look right on the top. I see exactly what my bean color is. We're at 440 degrees. So this is just like all of our roasters. Before we hit our ending bean temperature, which I'm about 5 degrees away, I'm going to reach over there and pull the bean cooler blast gate open so that it's downdrafting before we dump the bean. So now I have air going through the mouth and through the bean cooler. And we're at 450 degrees. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my loft down a little bit, shut the heat off. And there we go, just roasted a 3-pound batch of coffee. Takes about 2.5 minutes to cool the 3-pound batch. A 2-pound batch takes about 90 seconds, about the same as a 2.5. And now if we had another load ready to go, we would just dump it in the hopper, go ahead and establish our loft while we're cooling the beans. And as soon as the beans are cool, then we would close the blast gate, take care of our beans while we're roasting another batch. So we're getting about 6 loads an hour through here. So we're roasting on this machine. We're running a true 240 volt. Your voltage might vary a little bit. And I think in the shop here, we're probably about 65 degrees. And so on a warm machine, it'll take about 9.5 minutes. With your bean change time, you're ready to go. You can have a load going through every 10 minutes. So you can run about 6 loads an hour through at 3 pounds per load, which is great. If you look at the financial benefit of having a low-cost machine that'll produce that volume, you know, if you're selling your retail bean for 12 bucks a pound, try to figure a total bean cost with including power and electricity of about $4 if you're doing direct trade coffee. You still got about $8 a pound in profit through the machine. So that's a lot of profit in an hour. All right. So that was a little demonstration on roasting with the new Artisan 3E. If you have any questions about the roaster, give us a call and we can answer those. We have these machines in stock and ready to go. So if you'd like to see what our specials are, all you have to do is click on the link below and see what our monthly specials are. And this is Ken Lathrop again from Coffee Crafters. Thanks for watching.